Alright, gang. I wasn't originally going to do this video. In fact, that's why the topic of this video seems like it's probably a little bit late, a little bit down the line, a little bit past when all the other bloggers have jumped on this subject matter. Uh, just because you're going to see in a second, this video is about Dr. Dre. And of course, obviously, this is all about when he just came out with his new album, as in the soundtrack to the Straight Outta Compton album, the big NWA biopic, which is really blowing up much bigger than Universal ever expected. Like, their projected numbers are like half of what it's doing, etc., etc. And so every blogger, every website, everything that's even remotely hip-hop is just like Dre, 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 all the way down the line. They're talking about the sex of his album. They're talking about, like, his history with Michelle A. and D. Barnes from Pump It Up. They're just talking about his old records, his new records, everything. So it just sort of seemed like, I don't really want to just jump on that wagon and just be one more voice within a sea of a billion people all kind of saying the same thing. And so I'm like, all right, I'm not going to do a Dr. Dre thing. So I've already posted one or two things that aren't Dr. Dre-ish. I actually did kind of slightly related to a DOC blog, but I wasn't even really thinking of that connection at the time. But whatever, that's not that interesting. Ultimately, I decided to do it just because I figured, you know what? This is the kind of stuff that nobody is really talking about online. Again, I see a billion blogs all talking about Dr. Dre, and they're all talking about him with Kendrick Lamar and this and that, but no one's talking about the more obscure stuff. And I figured this is something that a lot of my kind of viewers would like to know, and this is a time I'm sure their interest in it is piqued, because this is about Dr. Dre in his prime, just as Straight Outta Compton is blowing up for its, I think, third week in theaters. So here we go. This is a post about Dr. Dre, the Chronic album, but specifically the Dre Day 12-inch single. This is, of course, 1992, Interscope Records. This is not the only single off the album, of course, but this is the one with pretty much all the interesting remixes and 12-inch exclusives. So we're going to talk about that right now. This is what you're really interested in. Although it does have, Dre Day is a big classic single, and that's on here. There's also a radio edit. There's also 187, which is, of course, from the Deep Cover soundtrack, but this was nice because if you got this, it means you didn't have to buy that soundtrack. And there was a separate 187 12-inch, but all it had was like a clean edit, and also you might as well just get this right here. So already that 187, the classic Dre Day, where he disses everybody from Tim Dog to Luke to Eazy-E, and nice picture cover, that already makes this pretty much a must-have classic 12-inch that heads would absolutely want. But there's a couple other tracks on here which are exclusive to this 12-inch, which, it seems like it doesn't get a lot of attention, doesn't get a lot of press coverage. They don't seem to be on YouTube and stuff, so I guess a lot of heads don't really know about. So even though, obviously, Dr. Dre, biggest single ever, this isn't exactly like a rare obscurity, it seems like heads don't know. So I'm going to put you onto it right now. The first one here is the full exclusive song, Puffin' on Blunts and Drankin' Tanqueray. Again, that's not on the album. It's not on any other album. It's on this 12-inch. There is actually another promo 12-inch or something, I think, which also has this song on here, but this is probably the main one you want anyway. And it's the same one on both versions. One thing you'll notice right off the bat, unavailable on LP, is a running time, 12 minutes. You're probably like, holy crap, but that's really misleading. Puffin' on Blunts and Tanqueray is an absolutely original, new, exclusive song. It's got a really kind of long, drawn-out intro, kind of a dark, simple, but really kind of moody, dope bassline kind of beat. It's got really sort of a freestyle feel. Like, it really kind of feels like they're freestyling. They mention that they're freestyling. I don't know. I wouldn't say 100% that these rhymes aren't written or not, done a couple takes on and a little bit prepared. But it still has much more of a freestyle feel than, like, say, Dre Day, which has a really studio sound to it. Still sounds a little bit more natural. And it features the Dog Pound, Daz, and Corrupt, and Lady of Rage, and they're basically the three main MCs who get down on this. Again, Dre mostly just kind of talks on the intro. And why 12 minutes? Because basically, the song is really roughly 6 minutes, and then it ends. And it really conclusively ends. Like, the beat wraps up, nobody's rapping anymore, there's silence for a good 10 seconds, there's a break in there, and then the instrumental comes on. And that's really just a whole nother track, and it's just the absolute instrumental to what we've just heard. So it's really, all they did was not distinguish, strangely, because they break, LP mix and radio mix, they don't add those running times together, but for whatever reason they act, when they do the running time, like it's one big monster song. It's not even, like some songs, they'll have like the instrumental just ride out. If you think of like MC Light's Paper Thin, like basically you hear all the raps, and then the music repeats with the ad-libs and everything. That's a pretty unusual record in and of itself. But even there, you wouldn't really say it's a separate instrumental. Here, the song really stops, and the instrumental comes on. It's really a whole separate version. So it's basically one exclusive dope track, and an instrumental that's just not credited. And I mean, you probably can't see it in the lighting with a camera and all that, but there's even like a real gap on the record grooves. The record label also listed as one giant continuous 12-minute song, but if you actually look at the grooves, you can totally see the gap. It's a whole nother track. So, okay, so that's that. Then, on the B-side, there's another exclusive, the one, not a whole exclusive song, but a Dre Day extended club mix. And you'll notice in the credits it mentions it features guys like RBX and Dog Pound and all that, so that sounds really exciting. And this, running time 10 minutes, so it's like, holy crap. Or do they do another Puffin' on Blunts thing where it's a 5-minute extended remix, which would make it slightly longer than the album version, and then a 5-minute instrumental? But no, not quite. This time they actually do what I sort of suspected and what I sort of hinted at they did with the last one, where they really just let the beat ride, like, endlessly. So, okay, Dre Day Extended Mix, first of all, features all the same lyrics and verses from the version you all know and love. In the beginning, it's got a long intro, and then it's slightly extended, like there's a little bit more instrumentation, a little bit of talking and stuff in between each verse, but it's by and large the same version you know. And then it's got, after that, Lady Rage kind of talks on here. It's got Jewel singing on here. There's a lot more singing on this track. The beat, again, rides for a very long amount of time. Nobody else, though, really kicks any more verses. RBX, where the hell is he? I don't know. He must be on here doing like a really minor backup ad-lib or something, because he really doesn't get busy on here. That feels like a little bit of a ripoff. A little bit disappointed, because I am an RBX fan and always was, especially in 1992 when this came out. I was pretty excited by him, and then whatever. So, no RBX. And it is pretty excessive in length. This really is a 10-minute version of Dre Day where the beat just goes on and on and on. The additional singing stuff kind of carries it for like another minute, and then you got like another 4 or 5 minutes of just like this bass line is just going to loop over and over and over again. So it is kind of cool. It's definitely cool to have a new variation on Dre Day. If this was like a 6-minute extended mix, it might even be, you might say this is the definitive version. It's a little bit longer, it's a little bit more. Although even then, I think I'd call the album version a little bit tighter. But you could make a real case for the extended mix. As it is pretty excessive. But if you're a hardcore Dre fan, you definitely want to at least hear it a couple times. You at least want to be familiar with it. You should at least track it down. So yeah, Interscope, Priority, Death Row. One thing to notice in the credits is that Chris the Glove Taylor gets a lot of credit on here, especially for the Puffin' Blunts one. So when you think West Coast hip-hop and sort of gangster rap, you know, vinyl seems to be a little less of a key thing compared to New York, where like everything in the 90s was like independent 12 inches and everything was vinyl. It felt more like G-Funk and West Coast stuff was a little bit more CD focused and just by the albums. So, you know, 12 inches with cool exclusive B-sides, a little bit less common on the West Coast side, but this is absolutely one. Really, it's kind of the only one off the album. His other single did have an exclusive remix, but it really wasn't that much to it, and he technically had like a third single for like Ghetto Boy, but that was more of like just a CD-only single and a promo 12-inch or something. This is really the monster 12-inch. This is the one to own in addition to the album. Again, it's really just like one extended mix and one bonus track. The radio edit, obviously, is just a censored version of the album version, plus a couple key masterpiece songs, and 187. I mean, that's a classic song that's not on the album, so unless you've got the deep cover soundtrack or something, you want to get this for that too. This is something that works as a dope companion piece to the album, and surprisingly, there doesn't seem to be that much about it online. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm just not seeking it out that much, because I already got the 12-inch, so I don't spend that much time researching it, but it doesn't seem to be that out there. And, you know, now that Dr. Dre is bigger than he ever was, which is saying something considering how big he's been at different points over the years, you should definitely know about this. So here it is, my Dr. Dre video right along with everybody else. Thanks for watching. Peace out. Next time will be something really rare and obscure, I promise. All right. Bye.